What's up everybody, welcome back to another drawing tutorial. So today we're going to be doing Hinata Shoyo from Haikyuu. He's about to spike the ball, so he's like mid-air, about to smack the ball. So landscape orientation page, use a pencil, hit pose if I go too fast. So slight 3/4 pose. What that means is like his face is it's not straight on, his face is turned away on one side, okay? So center point of my page is about here, right? So center point up to the left a little bit this time to start with his right eye, okay? So let's curve a line. So we go up like so and over. So like in Haikyuu, it's very sort of fine lines. They're not heavy line weights like in something like Demon Slayer or One Piece or something like that. Very sort of thin lines. So you don't need to thicken up his eyelid too much. That's about it really. And then the back of his eye, it doesn't connect. It's just like a floating line here. You can connect it if you want, but just the style of the anime, in this picture anyway, they're not connected. And then the bottom eyelid, just there. Okay, so that's the kind of shape you want to start off for with the eye. And then in here, his iris, just a circle coming around. If you want, you can use a compass or a coin or something that's the right size if you're worried about drawing circles. And then his pupil just in there in the center. Like that. And he could have like some extra lines just around his eye. Like so. And I think there's like some hatching or scratch marks or something on his cheek, like real light ones just there. We have an eyelid line just above, just here. This comes across top of his eyelash line. And then his eyebrow just above there starts just here. And then we tick it up. Tickety up. Goes underneath some of his hair, but we'll draw over this and you can erase it or color over it. Gets a bit skinnier as we go back. Like that. Okay, so his next eye, right? So if you measure his eye and go place it in between, right? That would be the distance, right? From here to here is probably about the distance to the center of the other eye, right? So this is a 3/4 pose. So this distance, this measurement here will bring you to like his pupil. So his eye will start just about over from that, like a bit closer to this eye. And remember, this is a 3/4 pose, right? So we're starting like in line with the top eyelid, right? It's higher up because his head is turned away, right? So this curves over like so. And you'll notice it's smaller than the one on the other side. It's about half the size of the other eye, like in width. Okay. So we're starting high up, just here, curves up and over, and it's about half the size of this eye. You just want to make sure it's smaller than this eye, because his face is turned away, so we got some perspective going on. So his bottom eyelid then will curve around here. This is one continuous line this time. And then his iris. Fits inside here. More of an oval type shape rather than a circle. And then his pupil just in the middle. So in top eyelid just here. And then his eyebrow, it kind of, we can see more of the side of the nose. So his eyebrow kind of comes up from the nose a little bit. And spikes more vertically. And then comes back down into here. And this line kind of comes down a bit further. Nearly joins his nose, do you know? Speaking of a nose, so his nose, like imagine it travels down inside here, inside the inside of his eye. You don't have to draw it, you just imagine. And then it will come out here, curve out, just there, to a point, and then it'll come back down, just like so. Okay, pretty simple sort of nose. Okay, so then his mouth, right? So big, he's smiling, big happy Hinata face. So like we're gonna start just like underneath his pupil here, right down here. So it comes across here. Okay, so we're starting under here. Looks like he has a tiny mouth. And we're gonna bring it all the way over to underneath the other eye. So like right over to here. Curving slightly. So now it looks like he's grumpy. But we're going to open it up and give him big teeth, big smile, okay? So it comes down. Already looks a bit happier. Comes across the bottom. So a bit of his shirt just comes across his mouth here, right? So it like spikes up, covers his mouth a little bit. The collar of his shirt. Because his shoulder is nearly like in his face. So like this comes up this way. Okay? And then the rest of his mouth will come down behind here. So like the rest of his shirt like goes right up, touches his ear nearly. So like this is like his shoulder area. And his hand is reaching out this way. Right, so then his teeth. Curved line coming across. Big top teeth. Simple enough, you don't have to draw in any teeth, just the line is enough. And then the bottom teeth, so we have the side of them, just there. And then we curve it around the tongue, like that. And then the tongue will kind of come out the other side here. Go up to his teeth and maybe the center sort of love heart kind of area. You know, that bump. And then it comes back around the other side, just here. And you can kind of see the back of his throat, and it's coloured in dark, so we might as well do that. So you can see a line for that there, and a line for that here, and you can just colour it in dark. Like so. Okay, so his chin, right down, so his shirt, right, so his shirt like covers his chin a little bit, so it comes down here, and his chin kind of pops out just here. Into there. Like so. So now if you want to just like check proportions and stuff. So if you're wondering how far down, you know, to put things and all that jazz and all that kind of stuff. So I would say maybe eyebrows to the bottom of his nose, right, is about the same as bottom of his nose to his chin. So the nose is going to mark halfway from the eyebrow down to the chin. Okay, here to here. is about the same as here to here. So that's the kind of proportions you're working with, okay? So his jaw then, so we have, comes up the other side, right? So we can only really see one side of his jaw. So it comes up this way. And then it wraps around his cheek and goes up the side of his face, right? So it's going to go curve this way. So we're curving underneath his eye. Okay? Like so. And we'll go up this way. And we'll stop about here because we hit his hair. Okay? And while we're over here, we might as well just add another sort of eye line just there. Okay, so might as well do his hair now. So we have hair spikes, lots of them on Hinata. So hair spike here. Up around like so. Back into there. Spike down. One coming down the middle of his face. And then there's another small one beside it. Like so. One coming over his eyebrow. Back up. Next one will come down over his eyebrow as well. To there. Back up to there. This one may keep going a little bit further actually. And then another one curves out to here, back in. And then they start to come down then the side of his face. So like down like here. Beside his eye. And then another one over here that goes over his ear. And then a couple of small ones for sideburns just down here. So like one so there. Like that. And then the ear goes up, down. Down the other side. In. And right, like I said, to his shirt. Curves into there. And then you can add some extra lines for ligaments and bones and things. Like this. Line there, and an earlobe maybe there, and a little line just for his jaw. Because we should see some of his jaw. His ear on the other side is much smaller. We can barely see it because his head is turned away on this side. So it comes down like so. Down to there. Right, so then the rest of his hair all the way up and around, right? So we're going all the way up to nearly the top of my page. There's a spike like right in the middle, say up here. This is like how far up we want to go, right? So this spike, probably where it starts, just if you're looking for proportions, like from his fringe to, I'd say maybe the bottom of his nose, right? So bottom of his nose to his fringe is about the same as fringe to the bottom of that hair spike. And that's where it starts and sticks up. So that's your proportion. You don't want to go much higher or lower than that because it'll make his head seem like it's tiny. So let's go. Spiking. Like so. Like this, and then we have a line coming down here. He's a cluster of smaller spikes together. It's like that bit at the back of his head. Like so, and then we keep going all down. A couple sticking out here. Like so. Maybe a line or two in the center. This one sticks out again. And these are going to come down all the way down behind his ear, okay? And remember, hair moves. Don't worry if you don't get it exactly like mine. So this goes down behind his shoulder, and his shoulder comes out behind his ear and then goes a little bit further that way. Am I right? Yeah, that's his shoulder, right? Comes out there. Couple of hair spikes like sitting inside, so like here. I'll remember the rest, so we'll keep going all the way around. So a couple of clusters. Another one like that. And then sticks out to there. And then we're going to start to go down. Stick out like so. A line comes up. And then like a longer one here. Just make this line a bit longer, and we're just going to add some in here, just give it some texture, okay? So, like, I mean, like this kind of stuff, okay? And maybe one sticking up here. This kind of thing. And then a couple more at the front up here. Like so. Line coming out there. Wrapping around. And okay, I think I'll leave it there, but you can add more if you want, but I'll just, for the sake of the video, just leave it there. Okay, so he's got like a big hand, right? Like it's massive, it's reaching, it's like the closest thing to the camera. So like as your hand gets closer to the camera, it gets really big, right? Until it blocks the whole thing. So his thumb, right, is like, let's see, it's right out past his head here, right? So it starts like here. So like that's his thumb. That's how big it is. So you see what I was saying? Massive. Massive. Okay. And then his index finger is like all the way over here somewhere. So like, so it's like above his ear. This is where it starts. So Okay. So this is this distance from the thumb to the index, right? So crazy big. And then we have another finger, I think, just here. So these are the distances we're talking about now, okay? So this is like foreshortening at its best. Okay, so foreshortening is a term in drawing and art where things get bigger and like long objects get stumpier when they get closer to the camera, when they're stretched out towards a camera. Okay, so it's just something to get your head around. And it's perspective. This is much bigger than his face because his face is further away. Okay, so let's keep going. What do we do? We'll join this finger up to here. Okay, so let's give it a go. Okay. So you want them to be kind of bumpy-ish sort of lines, right? So kind of curved lines. Like that. Okay, because if they're just like straight, it wouldn't really look like a human finger because we've got like bumps all over them. So you want them to be kind of bumpy, right? So 1, 2. So say 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 segments. This one's the biggest because it's the closest to the camera. Okay, we're just pretending there's like a camera here. I'm not pretending like this is like a photo or something. It's real life. Haikyuu is real life. And then we have the next one comes down like so. So we're bringing it down now all the way to the thumb. So our thumb line goes like this way. That's where the thumb starts. It's like the webbing in between, you know? Like that. And then we'll bring it up here. So kind of goes up. Bit of a knuckle bump. And then another line for the side of his thumb. Okay, so that's like this area. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 4 are about the same size. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one's kind of bump, and then the thumb wraps around. So then we'll bring the bottom of the thumb down. So goes around like so. And then we have another sort of bump here. And then the palm of his hand comes down like so. Just kind of curve this up a little bit. So that's like the bottom, the palm of his hand here. Probably bump down off my page there. It'll come back around in at some point down here. If you have more room, obviously, you could try and fit that in. But we'll go up now and we'll do the rest of his fingers. So this curves around like so. It's like a big index finger. It's like a balloon. Then we have 2 bumps that correspond to these. So they're like a cross from these. So bump 1, bump 2. Okay. And then you might have like curved line there. There's some details and stuff inside, but we'll get most of the fingers done first. So then we have that webbing in between our fingers, right? So this may be a little bit longer, and then the webbing that we have in between our fingers, that curved line. And we're going to bring this up to this mark now over here. So up to here we meet a knuckle, and then it comes down the other side, okay? So we're going to bring it down, like so, and we're going to bump it up to another knuckle, slightly. Like so, so like two hills. And then we'll go up around the finger. Like so, okay? Then this finger will curve all the way around. Like this kind of thing. It's quite long, see? About the same length as this one, from the tip to the bottom. And then another segment just there, and then a third just here, and we got some lines just inside there. Then we got the next finger that comes down. It goes off my page, I couldn't fit it in, so curve it like so, curve this one down and off the page that way. And does his finger come back in at some point? Maybe it should, like here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like the next finger where it starts. Lines in here, there, there, there. Another line coming down this way, hand lines, palm lines. So his palm is like all stretched out, you know. So we got some lines just coming around like so. Can you see any more? Not really. We can see some hatching lines every now and then. So like some just coming from his thumb here. And then a few on this side of his finger. Like that. Right, so we'll join his hand now to that shoulder. So what I was saying about foreshortening, it means like everything looks real stumpy, right? His hand is like all stumpy bumpy and stuff like that. So great description. Stumpy bumpy. So what I mean is like coming from his finger here, this is like his forearm, okay? And the other side of that is just like here. Might be a line just maybe between those two, just not connected or anything. And this will go up and go underneath his sleeve, right? So it'll go up and kind of curve into here. And the other side will follow a similar sort of trajectory on the other side, so it goes up to there. And then we have a sleeve that curves all the way around, right? So curves down behind his finger. And then we'll bring it up and out. And maybe another couple of lines just for his shoulder. Just there. Some hatching maybe here. And so all in there is dark. It's like a shadow in there. And then the rest of his sleeve comes around like so. And maybe like a fold line comes down this way. Okay, so does that make sense now? So his arm is like going in to his sleeve. It's all foreshortened and stuff. Some people are like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, we'll motor on. So, what we can see of his neck is hidden by his shirt. Okay, so a V sort of underneath his chin here. And there's a bit of a shadow underneath his chin, just in here. Like so. Then the collar of his shirt on the other side, so it comes out from just where that shadow stops, like here. And then goes up into his cheek, like so. And then the other side of his collar, the V, will come up and go underneath, just into there. Right, so his other sleeve, so it comes out from his ear, like his other sleeve, just underneath his ear. So it comes out like so. Okay, his other hand is like he's winding to spike the ball, so it's going to come out from here. But we'll finish his body first, like so, and then we'll go down the side, just there, bump down to there, and then the side of his body will come down from underneath his thumb. I would say I'm gonna go here. Yeah, that looks about right. Bit of a bump, bumps out like so, and then goes down to there. Okay. Can we see the other side of his body? Maybe a little bit, just here. Just down underneath his hand. And then we've got to separate the colors. So we got like white stripe just there. And we can see some of that number 10. So like just underneath his thumb, we can see the 0. Just here. Like that. And the 1, we can just see like the bottom of it. There somewhere. It's like curved around some folds of his shirt. So it doesn't look like a 1, but it's the bottom of it. So. And there's like a white stripe running across the top here. Comes out the other side and disappears. So like comes out here. Disappears around his arm. So there must be another line here. So there must be like another fold line for his body or something just there. Okay, so his other arm, so we'll just do that. So like forearm comes out like so. Other side of the forearm. So you want to make sure you get skinnier as you go out here. Now you'll notice this arm is much smaller than this because it's real far away. And we have like that bone, that wrist bump right there. So it like bumps up, comes down. Some animes don't put that in, which is interesting. Some decide like, we don't need that bone. So then his hand comes a bit further, out like so, and then the bottom goes down like so. So you want to make sure it's going wider, kind of like a wine glass sort of shape, and then comes out around like so. Skinny fingers and thumbs and stuff. So it comes around like this. Like so, and then right to there. Up like so. Another finger behind it. So they're quite skinny because they're far away, so take your time. Got like a knuckle back to there. Then the next one behind that one. And don't worry too much about details or anything because, you know, it's far away. There's not a lot of detail. And I think we just need the little finger sticking out kind of back here. Like that. And then you can add like a couple of knuckle lines and stuff back here. Like so. Maybe this finger should be a bit longer. Yeah, that's the best I can do. So then, we can see like a little bit of his foot, like right down here. Well, all of his foot and his leg. So it's like curved over. You can leave that bit out if you want. Like we could finish with his shorts if you don't want to draw his foot. So like, you know, shorts could come down there and that's your drawing done. But if you want to do the foot, I might as well help you out. So it comes out from the top of the thumb. That's his heel, okay? And then we go a bit further. Down around the top. Like this, and then go back in like so. Like that, right? So foot kind of shape. It kind of looks like a bean or something. And then his leg is going to come out from his sock right here. And this will run down off my page. Like so. Be a line on the side or something. And his sock, just here. And then the sole just follows that shape again. And then his laces, so you got like a tied lace. Coming out, could be, yeah, it's a double line, so. Like so, and then. And then there's like patterns and stuff and like different details. So the rest of his laces kind of curve around like that, and they're just kind of suggested. They're not really drawn in that much. Just some lines like that, and then there's they look like Reebok, but I'm not sure. I'm not sponsored by Reebok. Like this. This way. So these are like red sort of patterns just on his shoes. It's like a grey circle back there or something. Yeah. But that's the final. Oh wait. Nearly. He's got like a different colour down here. Orange and white down in there, so I'll separate it into the white section as well. Yeah, I think that's everything. How to draw Hinata Shoyo from Haikyuu. Spiking. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope it was helpful. See you in the next one.